Welcome to the Master the Margin podcast, your dose of pharmacy accounting and tax topics to help you take your pharmacy to the next level. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to, I guess this is our inaugural Master the Margin series on accounting and tax topics for pharmacy owners. Specifically, we got the podcast on the Bottom Line Podcast, where we more or less interview professionals in the industry, vendors, and things like that. This is going to shift Kathy a little more towards the accounting and the tax side of things for pharmacies. And so this is the inaugural Master of the Margin, as I mentioned. And Kathy, on this first episode, you might notice that I'm drinking my iced coffee. So anybody who follows our podcast knows that I went from a hot coffee to tea, and now I'm on the iced coffee. So switching it up a little bit.
I think you have a caffeine issue.
I might. I really might. Although I pretty much stop at this. I don't drink more coffee or anything after my morning coffee. But we are glad to have everybody listening in. In today's episode, Kathy, we're going to talk about fundamental accounting. And we talk about this all over the country in our CE classes, when we go to trade shows and we're speaking with people, when people call in. It really all starts at the fundamental accounting. So, what is fundamental accounting, Kathy? What would you say? And by the way, we got to introduce Kathy. Kathy is a senior pharmacy accountant here. She's one of our specialists on really 340B receivables. What else, Kathy? A little bit of everything.
Cleaning up nightmares, jack of all trades. Yeah.
Yeah, jack of all trades, and does a lot of our onboarding as well. So Kathy you've been here. How long, Kathy, have you been here? Since mid 80s?
Early 80s, yeah.
Early 80s.
41 years.
So Kathy's been in pharmacy quite a while. So Kathy, with that, and fundamental accounting, as I mentioned, we talk about that all the time. What is that fundamental accounting for a pharmacy? What does that mean?
Well, let's just kind of start with the basics. Reports that you really want to see on a monthly basis. Balance sheet and profit and loss statement. The balance sheet shows or reflects what you own and who you owe and the equity that you have in your company. Your assets are your cash, receivables, inventory, your equipment. That's what you own. Those are your assets. And then, of course, on the liability side, you've got your accounts payable, your credit card debt, any small payables like payroll taxes, sales tax, and then any debt that you owe institutions like banks, line of credit, that kind of thing. And then, of course, below that, you've got the equity. That's amount of money that you have accumulated year over year in your pharmacy. Gets a little bit detailed. We don't want to go there today. But then on the opposite side is your profit and loss statement, your revenues, your cost of goods sold, your operating expenses. And sometimes you have other income, interest income, dividends, rebates, that kind of thing. Fundamentals are those two reports. And of course, we can always dig into the weeds on the details, especially on the balance sheet. The balance sheet is basically your thermometer. It controls everything on the profit and loss statement. So if you're out of control on your balance sheet, you have no integrity in your P&L, and you probably shouldn't even be looking at either.
Yeah, and so the fundamentals are really how are you getting to those numbers on the balance sheet and P&L? Those are fundamental components of the accounting system. And as we get into more episodes, we'll kind of go down the balance sheet and P&L, and we'll touch on all these topics. But it's really having that data integrity in your numbers, and you got to have data integrity in a pharmacy because margins are thin, and you just not a lot of room for error. You got the cash flow issue already built into pharmacy, whereas, as Kathy, you're filling scripts, you're paying that wholesaler in 10 or 15 days. You're not getting paid until 21 to 25 days later on average. And so right there, you have a built-in cash flow issue in pharmacies. So fundamentals are very important due to that that thin margin, little margin of room for error, and then the cash flow issue. So that's what we mean by fundamental accounting. Get your that data integrity behind each and every number on the balance sheet, the P&L, understand those components, and then you can take that number, take that data, and then really analyze it and really take action on where you need to take action and manage and better control your pharmacy. And what we'll typically see is we'll get calls where pharmacies will say, I just feel like something's not right. Something's telling me something's not quite right, or I'm paying too much tax, or I'm not real sure where I am. I haven't gotten any financial statements lately. That's a typical instance where then we'll come in and do an RX assessment review or an RX assessment where we take the accounting and tax returns, overview that internally, get the pharmacy on the call, and we walk through everything. And then, we're going through that balance sheet and P&L, and we're identifying those gaps in the fundamentals and the issues, and, putting them and giving them the steps they need to take to make those updates and corrections to the fundamental accounting. So it's very common in pharmacy to see fundamental issues because, pharmacies has its nuances. It's got, some challenges to it. Someone off the street is going to struggle with the accounting side of pharmacy. If you don't really understand pharmacy, throw in 340B or what have you, and then you've amplified it times 10. So it does take a little bit of experience in the pharmacy accounting space. Well, we lost Kathy somewhere out there anyway. So fundamental accounting, it's absolutely crucial in pharmacy. You have to have it. And, we talked about what it is and why you need it. And how you would get started here is really just starting with your balance sheet and going line by line through that balance sheet and double checking those numbers and questioning every line item on that balance sheet P&L. So that's how you would get started. But we hope this episode's helpful. We're going to be in this series, we're going to be going through each and every pretty much balance sheet line item on a pharmacy and P&L. We'll also dive into tax topics here and there as well, I'm sure. But we hope this was helpful for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Master the Margin.